What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. It looks like you all are starting to remember who the fuck you are. Let's go. Let's go. Detroit Lions Nation, just entrepreneurs, everybody listening to this, like, remember who the fuck you are, for real. Like, sometimes we're like battle tested. We got to go through, like, we're going through life and the shit can hit us. The adversity can hit us. People can count us out. You know, all week I've listened to all the commentators talk about how the Lions are going to get beat by the Vikings because, man, they're injury depleted and, you know, they're just not up for the challenge. But no, those guys remember who the fuck they are. They came with their game plan. They came with their confidence. They, you know, that grit, and they did the work. Now, I know right now we're taping right after the Lions clinched the number 1 seed, finished 15-2, won the division for the second time. As we're sitting down to listen to this episode right now, we're super excited about it because we're preparing to play in the Super Bowl. So we're about to play in our first ever Super Bowl, right? And so this is in the words of being Nostradamus right now and predicting the future. As we're sitting down and listening to it, but as we're sitting down and just remember that as Lions fans, like, man, I know every week I look forward to. Connor, we talked about this a little bit ago, like outside. It's like every week I look forward to that Lions speech after the win.
Yep.
That Dan Campbell comes in, and it's that whole, man, making declarations. It's a mindset. I posted yesterday, biting kneecaps or taking kneecaps as a mentality. Mm-hmm. It's a mindset.
Well, he established that mentality from day one.
Yeah.
Told everyone what we were going to come to do.
Yep.
And to no surprise, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going straight for kneecaps. And to your point earlier about the depleted team, the expectations of what we were going to bring to the table for yesterday's game, it's like, to me, the depleted team, the backs against the walls, it didn't matter. It never mattered because we're coming with this intensity that is unlike anything that the other teams have seen, right? You can plan and prepare for schemes. You can plan and prepare for individual players, but like you can't plan and prepare for work ethic, intensity.
You can't.
When you're there, it's a completely different story.
Talent, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work.
Every single time.
Every single time. And I love, you look at, I remember very vividly last year when the Lions lost to the 49ers in the conference championship, and Dan Campbell came out and had his speech, and it was all, man, it broke my heart to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like doom and gloom, and you never hear doom and gloom from that guy.
No.
Like, he's always got a different spin on it. And I think he was just kind of breaking the reality to us, for us all, and even for himself and for his players. I don't think it was meant to be a doom and gloom. I think it was meant to be a motivation to all of his players,
completely.
Right? But it was truthful speaking, because you look at teams that just last year were predicted to win the Super Bowl, the 49ers that aren't even making the playoffs, the Dolphins that aren't even making the playoffs, right? You got these teams that
failed expectations.
For failed expectations. And last week when we played the 49ers, and I know you were there at the game, last week when we played the 49ers and they're going through the list of all the inactives and the injuries, there's a reason why the 49ers season fell apart. Yeah. And so when you look at anything can happen, injuries can happen. We're not guaranteed to have a winning season, be number 1 seed, be back to the Super Bowl. We're not guaranteed right now as we're talking in the past, so suppose where people are listening now, that we're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Right. And so we're not guaranteed that.
Job's not done.
Job's not done. But look at the adversity that we're going through, because this is the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. We lose our all defensive player. You know, the best defensive player in the NFL. The guy still leads our team in sacks, and he hasn't played since what, week 5 or something, week 6. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Not
good, but.
Not good, crazy, but you look at it and you hear the next man up in the sports speak like that, but you never see it like this.
No, that's a true culture difference from before Dan Campbell to now.
Yeah.
And I can't give Dan Campbell enough credit for what he's done. Throwing a little bit of Brad Holmes in there as well, right? Draft picks have gone phenomenally well, but I think it was apparent to everyone who was watching from day one. Dan Campbell stood on that podium in a press conference when he took the job and was like, I'm going to change things around here because things need to be changed.
Yep.
And if you've watched every step of the way, he's changed everything that he said he was going to do, and now we're reaping the benefits.
Yep.
I mean, most wins in team history at this point. And like I said, job's not done, but when have you ever remembered as a Lions fan expectations like this for a team.
There's never been expectations.
Never.
You're just hoping. You're hoping. There's been a whole lot of hope my whole entire life. Except for even that year, even the year they made it to the conference championship in 1991, there was no hope. There was a point in the season where they went on a big losing streak. They had to go on a big winning streak, and even in order to make it to the playoffs,
back in that spot.
Go there. But so like we were talking about this in the lobby, looking for the word. Talking about like the Jared Goff chance, and I also love in the game speech or the locker room speech, they gave the game ball to Amik Robertson, who had shut down Justin Jefferson. That's huge. That was my biggest worry, was Justin Jefferson in that offense.
A stud.
And you have Amik Robertson come in. And I don't know these guys. They played against each other in high school. They played against each other in college. I think it'd probably be fair to say that Justin Jefferson's probably had his way with Amik Robertson his whole career, right? Going back to high school. Allegedly, right? And so you come out and this guy, he gets a game ball, shuts the guy down pretty much for Justin Jefferson standards. It doesn't make any impact in the game. Yeah. And he gets a game ball and he says, they wanted to bury me. They tried to bury me, but I came from the dirt, and you can't bury what came from the dirt. In that whole mentality, like the reason why Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are so genius is because they didn't just go out and find a skill set. They went out and found skill set, but how many guys on their team were team captains? How many guys on their team had to overcome adversity, like overcoming cancer, like Josh Paschal, which is so awesome when he gets the ball just running down the field at the end of the game, right? And then we talked about this, but the Jared Goff chance and how they're everywhere. Like every Detroit sports game, everywhere, like high school basketball games, like everywhere you go in Michigan. But then I hear like the Boston Celtics and Toronto Raptors, and all of a sudden a Jared Goff chant is going on. I heard somebody yesterday was talking about the Browns game, and like they were watching the Browns game, and all of a sudden they had to adjust their TV and turn it up because they heard Jared Goff chants. And it's not chanting Jared Goff, the player, but I think it more is about what he stands for. He was thrown away. Mm-hmm. He was told, you're not special. You're not wanted. Nobody wants you. We're putting you out here to Detroit to die. And he didn't die.
No,
he resurrected himself. He didn't quit. And now he's on the top of his game.
Correct.
And to me, and the reason why we're even talking about this is because why not you? Why is that not you at home? We're not playing football. Maybe you are. Maybe we've got some professional athletes or athletes listening, but most of the people listening are entrepreneurs, or they're out there making some sort of a difference in the world. And why can't this be you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And for me, relating that to Jared Goff, I mean, Jared Goff wasn't dealt a bad hand. Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick.
For sure, yeah.
Jared Goff went to a surging Rams team, young Rams team at the time. Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Like, he wasn't dealt a bad hand, but his tenure with the Rams ended in a bad way, and that then set the trajectory of his career into the negative. And he turned it around, right? And I don't think that he did that by himself. I mean, that took mental coaching and support from the staff, from your teammates, from social media, right? From fans all across. This city embraced Jared Goff.
Yeah.
We didn't have to, but we did. And I mean, now you can see what that looks like, to that point, right? Where we're talking about 2 teams outside of Michigan, have no affiliation with the Lions. We're not even in the same sport, but they're chanting Jared Goff because that's like the mantra for our city at this point. It's bigger than Jared Goff.
Yeah.
It's like, we will not quit.
Yep.
And when your back's against the wall, you're chanting Jared Goff because like it's time to go.
It's time to go. I love that, and I love the reminder, one, that he didn't have necessarily a bad hand, but there's like things where you can falter, and the fact of the matter is he was supposed to become Carson Wentz,
right?
And they're both guys, 2 guys drafted same year. Yeah. Both had, like, Carson Wentz went to a Super Bowl. Like, his team won the Super Bowl, but he got injured, and that was kind of a bad hand. Yeah. Like, he got injured.
What's a great comparison between the two?
2 guys in the same. And Carson Wentz yesterday started for the Chiefs, and they got blown out. He didn't even score a touchdown,
but
right?
He's a backup now.
That was supposed to be Jared Goff. That was supposed to be his story. And you talked about how we embraced him. We didn't embrace him when he got here because he sucked when he got here. Like, he was reeling. His confidence was shaken, and he played for a bad Lions team, and they were trying to figure it out. And I remember going to a Lions game, and we were chanting for Tim Boyle to come in the game. Now, Man, can you fathom that right now? That
Oh,
somebody would
Tim
be chanting
Boyle.
for Tim Boyle to come in instead of Jared Goff.
I hate that.
That's like the worst out of the history of the Lions. I think that's the worst backup quarterback we've ever had. We gave that guy every chance. He was horrible.
Yeah. The only thing I can
really
think
bad.
of that might be worse was like a Sean Hill.
I liked Sean Hill.
Really?
Sean Hill Sean Hill would come in and he put up good numbers.
Sean Hill had a couple good games.
Yeah, he was a good backup. Tim Boyle couldn't move the ball down the field.
Yeah, no, you're right. Honestly, before Matt Stafford, there was just such a hodgepodge of bad quarterbacks year after year.
Yeah.
They kind of start to blend together for me.
Yeah.
My first jersey that I got as a Lions fan was a Joey Harrington jersey, who
Joey Blue Skies
might be the worst quarterback I remember of all of the Lions' bad quarterbacks. But I repped that jersey, number 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I love this, and this was even a great comparison, and I think kind of wrapping in the message to the audience here is because, who knows if anybody that makes it to the NFL is good. Mm-hmm. What does a little belief do for somebody? One, you've got to put in the work in order for anybody to even kind of believe in you, because we didn't believe in Jared Goff when he got here. We were waiting to draft the next quarterback.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to be the placeholder before we would use one of the picks that we got from Stafford to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
And that guy put in enough work to get there. It wasn't the fans that believed in him, though. It was the coaches. Mm-hmm. The coaches had a belief level in him. And man, what is that power when somebody comes along and says, I believe in you? It not only just says it, but they full-heartedly put it on you and say, we're going to give you an opportunity. We believe that you can
to the
make
point
it
where
happen.
you can feel it.
You can feel it. They designed a whole entire offense around this guy. Mm-hmm. Him and Ben Johnson were inseparable during that offseason. Yep. And Ben Johnson got to really know Jared Goff inside and out and design the offense around his strengths and weaknesses.
What are your strengths, and how can we highlight this to the maximum capacity to make this as easy as possible for you as it needs to be?
So if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, I guess the message I'd like for you to get, if you have a team, if you have people on your team and you maybe have an employee that isn't getting it, ask yourself, are they in the right position? Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity for it? And if they have those 3 things, if they get it, if they get the task at hand, they really want it, they're coachable people, and they have the capacity to do it, but they're still not getting it done, ask yourself, what are you doing as a leader to inspire and to grow that person? Yeah. Have you let them know that you believe in them?
No, that's an absolutely great point. I think another factor to contribute there is that on the leader side, you have to understand that not everyone needs to be led in the same way. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's coached the same way. Not everyone understands the same leadership methods, we'll call it, right? So as a leader, you have to understand that.
Yes.
Everyone is coached in a different way. Can you find that unique way per individual to really hit that piece? Or are you going to coach everyone the exact same way? And if you choose to do that, the people that don't resonate with that style are going to leave very quickly.
Yep.
Right. And it's easy to relate it back to football, but that's everyday life.
Yep.
Right. Take away leader or coach and replace it with manager, boss, whatever 500%. It may be.
Yeah.
You can't manage your employees the same way. Not everyone.
I learned that as a young leader. So I was I had a success with the team of all guys. Yeah. We were really like a sports environment. I've always managed or led I've always wanted to be a NFL coach, right? Yeah. Thinking about in my fantasy world of like what I thought I aspired to be when I was a kid. I never really thought I had the thoughts and dreams of being a professional athlete, but I more or less wanted to become a professional coach. So I had a lot of success with this team. It was all guys. We were very competitive. We talked to each other in a different way. I take over another company. I come in as a sales director, and I have a lot of mixed personalities, and I have females on my team that I had never had on my team before. Yeah. Right. And so I'm used to this like environment where we like poke each other and like stuff like that. And so
probably didn't resonate well.
I had this young girl on my team, young lady. She was super, super awesome, but she was somebody I inherited and came in. I hired this guy, and young guy was I mentored this guy. He was a rock star, like a difference maker, like amazing young man. But anyways, I didn't know this young lady had a crush on this guy. And she was in our location, and she said something like, "Hey, JT, can you can Mike come to my location? Maybe I can train him." in me being like, kind of like what I would do and say. I'd like thought I was going to jab her the same way I'd jab everybody else, and she'd get the point. And I said, "Oh, you mean how about like what if he came out and trained you?" She hated me.
Did not fly.
There was nothing I could ever do to rebuild that relationship. Even after I realized what I did wrong and I admitted it and I apologized, there was nothing I could do to rebuild that trust. I embarrassed her in front of somebody that she had a crush on. I called it out. It was the way I motivated.
And for you, it's harmless.
It was for me, it was harmless. I thought it was a funny joke.
Right.
I didn't realize it was a huge lesson, a huge lesson. And now what's really funny is like most of the people that I coach are women, which is crazy. Like how it kind of all unfolded. It's to learn. What do you learn out of it?
Yeah, no, 100%. And to that point, like you probably didn't see that transition happening from the start, right? After a bad experience like that. But as long as you are capable of adapting, adjusting, whatever it may be, I mean, you're going to find a way, right? 500%. And maybe 10 years ago, you didn't have the coaching ability that you do now, so you didn't resonate with women as much as you did men because it was primarily sports.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's it was my experience, Yeah.
That's what you knew, right? Yep. So that's what you're going to put onto someone else, and that makes sense. But then you find the ability to adapt and overcome, and you extend that hand a little bit more to individuals that you wouldn't normally have done so before.
Yep. And I think to wrap that up, and then I'll stop hijacking the conversation. We'll go into you. Is it as humans we have the ability to adapt and change and grow in order. The Lions didn't just acquire new players. Nope. They acquired coachable people that were ready to grow and change along with the team. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a culture, a thing that's not stoppable because it's not one person.
Correct.
It's not Aiden Hutchinson.
No,
it's not just
the
Jared
culture
Goff.
Across the board, and it really extends further than the players and the coaches. I think it extends to the fan base, to the city, to anyone who's watching. It's a night and day difference. I don't know how to say it any other way.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Lions. Now Lions. Night and day difference.
Oh, man. I mean, they just played the biggest game in probably NFL regular season history.
Correct.
The
thing about that game to me is that 2 years ago and prior to that, Lions last game of the season in a make or break game. Well, typically before 2 years ago, it would have been playoffs or bust. Now it's first seed or wild card.
Yep.
Prior to 2 years ago, that was a game that the Lions lost 10 out of 10 times.
Oh, 10 out of 10. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's just no question.
Yep.
10 out of 10 times we're losing that game. I think that every fan in the building and in the city and watching at home went into that game yesterday thinking, it's our game.
Yeah.
When have you ever been able to do that?
We talked about this, but I had supreme confidence in those goal line situations, which is crazy.
Which most teams are not going to feel confident there.
No. I normally don't. For some reason, whatever they were doing yesterday, I just felt there's a buzz. I felt extremely confident.
I wasn't scared of Cam Akers or Aaron Jones. Like, no. Yeah. Come on. We got big guys up front. They can't do anything, and they didn't.
So Connor Messina, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Go
Lions.
I knew we were going to build a jam about football and have some like good stuff out of it. Just stories are day to a soul.
100%. No, it is very easy to continue to talk about the Lions.
It is, especially the day after the big game.
Right.
So.
In a time period with tremendous success that fans have not been able to experience before. But we're always going to find a way to get back to the Lions so we can get on to different topics that probably have Lions intertwined.
That's exactly it. I knew this was going to be a fun episode. Yeah. So Connor, tell me a little bit about what difference or the difference that you're making in the world right now.
Well, I mean, what I strive to do every day when I wake up is ultimately be able to put someone in a better situation than they were before they met me. Whether that directly relates to my day-to-day business, it doesn't matter, right? So what I do day-to-day, I'm an independent health advisor. I write health, life, dental, vision, supplemental, Medicare, all that good jazz. And on the job responsibilities, right? Trying to save people money, trying to get them in better places than they were, problem solve and all that stuff. But outside of my day-to-day job, can I be a resource, right? Can I be that person that someone comes to and is like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. And on my end, it doesn't matter what that X, Y, and Z is. I'm going to be that resource. Whether it's directly something that can help with health insurance, sure. Let's review your situation. Well, I don't write auto and home, but I can send you to that person that does. I'm not a realtor. I don't know anything about that space, but I know tons of people who are. I'm not a business coach or a life motivator, even though I may try to be on social media. That's not what my area of expertise is. But if you need coaching, I'll get you to that person who can coach you. You know, so it doesn't matter if I can directly help, as long as I can indirectly help. That's what I'm here for. Putting somebody in a better spot than they were before they met me.
How do you do that?
I mean, are you relating that question to day-to-day work or just in general? Because in general, how I do that is just being a good person and really treating people the right way and looking out for those people the best way that I know how to do. You know, as cliche as it is, just being a good person. That's what I strive to do every day.
I love it because it's cliche, but it's like it can't be said enough.
100%. That's the irony of cliche statements, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that are really cliche and it's a joke. But when it comes to like the motivation space, a lot of that stuff is cliche, but it's like true to the very point. So yeah, you can joke about the cliche aspect of it, but it's like, take that to heart.
Yeah.
And it won't be funny anymore. It'll be the truth.
It's like I've always said, like, as I'm training new salespeople and stuff, it's impossible to go do good things for people and then not get your reward on it. And it's not like, hey, remember that good thing I did on, like, knock, knock, Connor, remember that good thing I did for you last week? Yep. You owe me a favor, buddy. And, you know, now I'm cashing in. Right. It's just when you're going out and you're doing good things for people, you're going to dominate a space. I talk a lot of times about dominating space.
100%.
In like, I love what you're talking about. And that was the perfect answer. And the other piece I was looking for is like, it's the resources, it's the people, right? It's the relationships.
Yep.
Because you might not know anything about real estate, but you like you said, you know people that do.
Yeah. And
you can connect them to great relationships that you have, of people that you know are going to take care of them or give them the direction they need to go.
Yep. 100%. Completely agree. I honestly, at this point, pride myself in trying to be that resource. Like, I know that I can't help everyone and anyone, right? It's just not the reality of the situation. But as many people as I possibly can, I will. And I'm not going to stop doing that. My mindset internally, like for the last 2 years, has completely flipped from what it used to be. And it used to be for me, how can I be successful? What do I need to do to be successful? And my mindset then switched at some point. Couldn't tell you when. I truthfully just woke up one day and things were different. Mm-hmm. But it switched to not so much how can I be successful, but how can I make everyone around me successful? Because I firmly believe that if you treat people the right way and you do right by people, success will find you. I can't even put a further explanation onto that. That's just what I believe. Mm-hmm. And I'm a prime example of seeing that come to fruition. I mean, business has not treated me the way that it is for the last year and a half, 2 years. It didn't treat me that way for the first 4. And life hasn't treated me that way for, previous years before that. But that's because I was just in the wrong mindset. I wasn't looking to be the best I could be for others. I was looking to be the best that I could be for myself. And that only gets you so far.
It does. And most of it's in frustration.
Oh, for sure. Like a ton.
And that's interesting. So just one day you just kind of like woke up and it hit you.
Yeah. I mean, not to get spiritual, right? Because it's a new space for me. But to be honest with you, I just, after constant conversations with myself and trustworthy people around me, my father being one of them, he said one thing to me that really resonated. Haven't forgotten it. And it was, you have to be in a space where you're open and willing to listen before things will truly change. And you can hear that, but to hear that and to understand that are different. And I didn't understand that at first, but I'm telling you, that was the day that things were different. When I finally came to the understanding, I'm ready to listen. Tell me what I need to do, how I need to be, who I need to be. And it was like a snap of a finger. I woke up the next day and it was like, I have a plan. I know what I need to do. And it's not like you're going to snap your finger and get there.
Yeah.
It's going to take work. It's going to take grit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But I'm serious, man. That's exactly how it went. I just got to a point where I was ready to start listening and stop talking.
It's incredible, Clay. I say God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
And a lot, we all love the sound of our voices.
I
We
love
all
that.
love to talk, but we get so much further when we do stop and listen. And somebody said at our boot camp this morning, he had a major epiphany before going into the holidays. One of his commitments that he made was that he always has a big understanding with his father-in-law, and his goal was to have a conversation with him and just be curious at who he was as a person, to see him differently, to see him who he is, as opposed to like this object that, is always in his way kind of thing. And he was saying like his biggest epiphany was like, when he's there with his father-in-law, or whenever he's with his father-in-law, he's listening to how do you say it? Instead of listening to understand, he was listening to persuade, or he was listening for a result.
Sure.
Right. He was listening for like a selfish reason versus like really listening to understand. And he was like, as I was sitting and I was listening to understand, I was realizing why he does certain things and why he does them the way he does them. And then he started talking about his childhood, and I was like, oh, and I was putting it together, and now it's clicking, and I really understand. The end epiphany is he's like, he doesn't have to do the things that I do, or he doesn't have to do things the same way that I do. Like and I'm not going to teach him how to do things differently.
No, yeah, completely understand that.
It's just one of those major epiphanies of like, when we go into conversations, a lot of times we're listening so that we respond. We're listening to respond as opposed to listening to understand. We're listening so that we can respond.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you came to that word respond, because as I've gotten older, one thing that I pride myself on transitioning is that I used to listen to respond, or not necessarily respond, but I guess respond. I used to listen to provide an opinion. And I got to the point now where I ask people, especially when they're in a time of like, hey, I want to talk, right? The first question I always ask is, do you want me to listen and give my opinion, or do you just want me to listen? Because I can do both, and both provide very different outcomes for the situation. But if you just need a space where you're just looking to vent, I don't need a comment. I can have a comment if I need to, but I don't need to. Where I feel like when I was younger, I did need to.
Yeah.
There was like always this urge in me where I was like, even if it wasn't a bad thing, right? It didn't even need to be a criticism. It could be a completely helpful point, but not everyone is in a space to be hearing or needing that helpful point at that time. They just need you to listen. And I couldn't understand that for a while. So I'm glad to be in that spot where it's like, I don't have a need to just, talk, respond.
How much easier are your conversations?
Well, one thing it does is it takes the pressure off of you.
Yeah.
When someone just wants you to listen,
Yep.
Dude, I can do that. Like, keep going.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. You tell me when you want me to butt in, right?
Yep.
So it's definitely taken weight off my shoulders. It's like I don't feel the need to have to respond to everything, which is great.
I think, this could be for everybody. I think men specifically want to solve problems.
Very much so.
And I had to learn this the hard way, this very exact lesson with my wife, because like I wanted to solve her problems. If she's telling me something and she's like complaining about this thing, I'm like trying to solve them, and I'm giving her all these things, and it was frustrating her. And then one day she literally said, like, I don't want your advice or you to respond. I just want you to listen. Like, oh, dang, I can do that. And there's like so much pressure off my shoulders. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to have to give her advice.
Because before you were like, subconsciously, you're trying to get that problem solved no matter what. So when it's not being solved, it's like, that's a knock on you.
Yeah.
You got a problem that you're coming to me with.
And
here's a solution. It's either not making sense to you, or you didn't like to hear that version, or whatever it may be. The point is that you're trying to solve a problem that is unsolvable at this point.
Yep.
So internally it's affecting you. But when the expectations are set beforehand, which again is why I asked that question now, do you want me to listen to just listen? Or do you want me to listen to provide an opinion? Because some people are in problems that they know how to solve. They just need to talk through it.
That's absolutely it. And even just from a coaching standpoint, when in the middle of a session, people were kind of go through, I had a client that was stuck, and she was telling me, she's like, I feel like I'm elevating and I'm outgrowing my business. And she started coming up with solutions, and her solutions were actually taking her back. Like she was actually going down below where the line where she thought she outgrew.
Right.
And I just sat and listened to her for like 5 minutes go on and on and on about how she was going to do these things that I thought sounded absolutely ridiculous. If I would have said, that's absolutely ridiculous, she would have like clung to it.
Correct.
Right?
Wouldn't have gone very well.
Wouldn't have gone very well. So I let her go, and I was like, how does that sound to you? How does that feel to you? She was like, if you were doing that, do you feel like would that help you grow more than where you are now? And no. Like,
Bing.
bing.
Like, really now?
Just a couple of questions based off of what she's saying.
Yeah.
But like, you just got to listen.
No, yeah. You
She
definitely
comes up
gotta
with the
listen.
discovery.
Correct. You let her talk that situation out for herself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the light bulb clicks in her head and it's like, oh, wow. Maybe this is something that I could fix very easily.
And people are so much more excited to go take their fix and apply it as opposed to somebody else's idea.
100%. I mean, it's self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
You can go back to the situation like, yeah, there was some advice from other people, but I did it myself. Who doesn't want to say that?
Oh my God. Exactly.
I did it myself.
Yeah.
Right? It's great, great, great to have support. Don't get me wrong. I am very much so an advocate of a support system, but to be able to say I did it on my own, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just, talking about stuff like this to this day gives me chills because it's like I can look back on my own growth and my transition. And for 2 years, I've really focused heavily on growth, like growth in every aspect of my life, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. They're all intertwined. But I focused very heavily on growth for myself because going back to, what I do to help people, if I didn't put the time and effort to grow internally, there was going to be no external help.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anything to give.
Yep.
Had to find something to give, right? So thankful and blessed for 2 years of just through and through growth in my life. And I know that everyone in my support system sees that because they tell me they see that,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not at all a person to tell you that I did it on my own because I didn't do it on my own. Absolutely not.
Yep.
I had so many support systems around me to get me to the spots that I'm at. But what that allows me to do is be thankful and blessed and give it back to other people.
It's going back to that conversation we were talking about, like somebody believing in you, right?
Right.
Like someone believing in Jared Goff, someone believing in you, it changes
Correct.
your life, and then
Very much.
and then you go back and give that to somebody else.
Yeah. It does change you to get, especially when it comes from a place of someone who you know, like, and respect.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a mentor come to you, someone who you truly respect, someone who is, maybe shaped the way that you do things, and they hit you with I see the work that you're putting in, or I'm proud of you, or a combination of a ton of different words, right?
Yep.
And it's all going to mean something different to other people. But it's like when you have that mentor come to you and they tell you that they see the work you've been putting in or whatever it may be, man, that is fuel.
Who is that mentor for you?
There's a couple different people, but if I'm being honest, the biggest mentor for me is my father.
That's awesome.
He has been the individual that has shaped pretty much everything about my life. Now, let me be clear, that's not to discredit my mother. It's a combination of parenting there, but the way that I act, who I am, my drive and my passion for helping, I mean, I got to credit it to my father. He is 100% my biggest role model, has been my entire life. And as I've aged, I've been significantly less hesitant to make sure that he knows that.
That's beautiful.
You go through a period of time as a teenager where it's like,
Yep.
trying to get away from your parents or whatever. You don't really understand what they truly did for you. But as an adult, not even like I don't have kids, so it's not like I've seen it now from a parent's perspective. But as an adult, I can really look back and just be like, man, I am so blessed to be raised by the people that I was. They put me in situations that I would have not been able to be in without them. And that is the truth.
Just give me an example.
Well, I mean, business specifically.
Yeah.
My dad is a financial advisor. My dad right now is a large reason that my book grows, right? I get referrals from a ton of different areas, but my dad's a financial advisor, so he sits with a ton of different people, Medicare specifically, right? So I get referrals from my father. My father's a part of a firm. that also now sends referrals my way because I've been able to get introduced to the other advisors in that firm, meet them, get to know them, show them what I have to offer, right? So now it's not just my dad. Now it's my dad and 30 other advisors who send referrals my way because ultimately the opportunity that he gave me, right?
Yeah.
So that directly correlates to him. On the opposite end with my mother, my mom runs a home daycare. So by the way, 2 entrepreneurs.
I love it.
So if you were questioning or asking yourself how I got to this, I mean, I was raised by 2 entrepreneurs. But my mom with a home daycare, I mean, my mom sends me referrals for other daycare providers who are not offered insurance and have to do alternative measures than getting it through the state or whatever their outcomes are, right? So that's a small example only when it comes to business growth that they help directly day to day.
Yeah, yeah. What was that like growing up in a home with 2 entrepreneurs?
That's a great question because growing up, I didn't see either of my parents as entrepreneurs because I didn't understand that mindset or what it entailed at the time. I just saw them as workers, right? My dad started off with Chase I believe he started off as a personal banker and then moved his way to, financial advising in that, space. Like I said, with my mom running a home daycare, like that didn't seem like entrepreneurship to me when I was growing up. But I didn't have an understanding really of what that looked like in general. To me, when you were a business owner, it was like you had this big multi-billion-dollar company. Like that was an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yep.
I didn't realize that the space of entrepreneurship is so complex. There's so many different avenues that you can go and make your own way, pave your own way. Doesn't have to be traditional business.
Yep.
It could be e-commerce if you want it to be, right? It doesn't matter as long as you have the will and the drive. But going back to your question, it's like I didn't think of my parents as entrepreneurs through my teenage years. And then being able to do that on my own, that's when I realized like, wow, I actually grew up with 2 business owners. And I didn't even think about it in this light until I'm in the space, that I'm in now. And it directly relates.
That's so cool.
I think there was underlying like attitude and an underlying motivation and willingness to work, right, that I got from them. But I didn't ever tie it back to entrepreneurship because it didn't make sense to me at that time.
Yeah.
Makes full sense to me now. Imagine, right?
It's so crazy. My dad was not a good role model at all. But like going back and like thinking about things, he was an entrepreneur. And he had like he did his own lawn care business. Right. And he was like always like hustling and grinding. And I think the one thing that I remember like being a positive is my mom talking about like he always found a way. Like, and I remember that being a little kid, my mom saying like, how no matter how tight things were, he always found a way
Food's
to come
on
through
the table.
with something like this. Yeah. And so like, I think that maybe that's one of the good things I got from my dad. I don't know, but like, that you think about, I didn't think of him like that until
for sure,
even probably just until recently thinking about like, oh man, I guess he was really an entrepreneur. Right. If you think about daycare or like these things, what does entrepreneurship look like? It's literally that.
Correct. You own a business, right? Yeah. But that could be, like I said, a bunch of different things for a bunch of different people. But at the end of the day, are you your own boss? Are you the one telling you yourself to get up and get the job done? Mm-hmm. That is actually a huge aspect of entrepreneurship that I did not consider before getting involved. Do I have self-motivation?
Yeah.
Or even further, do you have self-discipline
yes.
that can take a step forward when your motivation is lacking?
Yes.
Because motivation is a temporary emotion.
Yeah.
It's a temporary emotion.
Yep.
Motivation comes and goes. Discipline is the thing that kicks in when you're laying in bed at 7 a.m. thinking, I could go to bed till 8:30 and still get my day done, but I'm not going to go to the gym. I will have to just skip the gym today. Discipline kicks in and gets your ass in the gym at 7 a.m. when you don't want to.
And if I miss that, if I don't do it, I feel it all day long.
Physically and
mentally.
Yes.
Like I betrayed myself.
Correct. You let yourself down.
Yeah.
And you let yourself down in such an easy battle.
Yes.
But we as human beings, I think, overemphasize small battles internally. Mm-hmm. So that, like, to some people, and I know this, to some people, just getting up and going to the gym early in the morning, like, that's the biggest thing that they struggle with all day. And that's not to say that that's a horrible thing, but it's like, Is it really that bad? Not that bad. But we struggle so much internally to get it done.
Yeah.
Maybe because there's no discipline.
It's so interesting to like dive into that. And again, it's what gets you up, what gets you going.
Well, what gets me up is like we've talked about before, to help. That's what I've realized my true purpose on this earth is, and that's to help people. It doesn't matter how I'm helping, but I'm going to help in some way, shape, or form. And not everyone needs to be helped, and that's okay.
Yep.
But the people that do need to be helped, whether it's directly related to my business, whether it's, let me share some just positive words with you on Facebook. I mean, there are enough people in my contact sphere on Facebook now that see what I post regularly, right? And there's enough people now that comment regularly and react regularly. So there's like a little bit of a following. Not that that's the goal, right? I'm just posting stuff that directly relates to me in my everyday.
Yeah.
But if it can affect someone else in a positive direction, then I'm doing my job. If it stems an idea for someone else, then I'm doing my job, right? It doesn't matter how I can help. You just find a way.
I love this, and from your industry, and I've talked with a lot of people in health markets or in health insurance. One of my first clients when I started my business was it wasn't health markets, but she was doing something very similar, and so I was coaching with her. This is a grinded out. Most people are picking up the phone and dialing 200 people a day. And what I really want to emphasize is that you're not doing that. And you probably, we can talk about, the kind of the evolution of this and what it looked like from the beginning to now. But what's important and why you're here, and, one of the big reasons why you're here is you found a way to become successful in doing it differently, in finding the way to do it within your strengths and the way like it, it's fun doing it.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of fun doing what I do. I'm not hesitant to tell anyone. Going back to cliches, right? If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. How many times have you heard that?
Over and over again.
Right, and it's
freaking
the
true.
truth. I love what I do.
Yeah,
it is not a struggle for me to wake up and get the job done. I don't care about the motivation or the discipline at this point. I love what I do.
Yeah,
it's not work.
Yep,
I get to help people for fun at this point. And like, you might be watching this like, oh, that doesn't sound very fun. Well, that's because you just don't understand at this point. And you will understand eventually. It's fun, man. It really is. It's fulfilling. That's a better word to use.
Fulfilling. Yeah. Yes. When you can help somebody in some way, shape, or form, however it is, even if it's just connecting them with the right real estate agent,
right?
Someone that gets them into their dream home, or whatever that is.
Well, you say that like it's such a small thing, but guess what?
Oh my God, yeah!
I got somebody in touch with the perfect real estate agent, and they just bought their dream home, and now they get to raise their family in their dream home.
Yep,
that's big for them.
It's not a small thing.
No. And to me, it may have been small. That's just an email connection that I threw out. Introducing so-and-so. Take the ball and roll with it. But that connection changed their lives.
And what I love to know, I want to point out is because you've said a lot like I want to help. Mm-hmm. How does that help? Well, it helps the real estate agent, obviously, right? You make a good connection with them with a perfect fit client for them, and so obviously they're going to get paid. They get a new client. They could get referrals from that.
Yep.
There's so much that happened there. And then on the reverse side, your friend or acquaintance or whoever, this person that you meet now got into their dream home.
Yeah.
And so you help these two people. Now along the way, they remember you.
Correct. And now we become referral partners. And taking that example to a step further, that client that I got in touch with a real estate agent who now has their dream home, guess what? They probably changed primary addresses, which means they have a life change in health insurance. They need a new policy.
Ooh.
So not that the goal was to get them back to needing help from me, but that's what happens.
Yep.
Because the conversation stemmed from, I want my dream house. And now 3 months later, when the dream house is there, we're circling back around and the business comes back to me.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Right. And it may not have even been intentional.
Yeah.
But because I did the right thing for the right person, success finds me.
It's those things. And we're just coming out of the Christmas season. Have you watched It's a Wonderful Life?
Of course.
Yeah, it's that. In a lot of times people, George Bailey goes through his whole life just helping people.
Yeah.
And he feels like his life is miserable. He didn't fulfill any of his dreams. And now he's in an extreme amount of trouble. And who's going to help him? Well, everybody that he's ever helped in his life comes to his aid.
Yep.
And, it helps him and puts him in an extremely good position. And I didn't watch that. I didn't see that movie for years. When I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, this is like the meaning of life right here, right? You build your value based on how many people you go out and you help and you serve.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great.
Because he had nothing but the people that he helped and served his whole entire life. He had nothing else other than that.
Correct. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if I've seen that movie in a while.
I literally, my wife was like, I watched this season. It was on, I think Christmas Day. It was on like a loop. They were playing it all day long, and I put it on, and Gracie comes out, I was like, "What are you watching?" And I sat and I watched the whole movie because it's getting down to that end where, he comes in
and now it has a different meaning for you.
Now it has a total different meaning.
Yeah,
because again, this is the way I see the world.
Yeah.
And I think when you see the world in this lens and you literally are out there, I look at sales as serving people at the highest level.
100%.
Whatever I'm selling, I need to believe in it.
Yep.
If I don't believe it literally can help people, I can't sell it.
No.
I don't want to sell it. I don't want to touch it.
Why would you sell something that you don't believe in? That to me seems a little scammy.
It's very scammy. It is.
It's like, are you going to purchase the product for yourself? No. Okay, well then why are you pushing it on to someone else?
Yeah. Well, and then there's the reverse side, and I always say if you get into sales, or if you love what you do, if you have your own business, because you get to choose it. But there's so many people out there that are just trying to choose something to make money.
Correct.
Right. And unfortunately, it all ties hand in hand, just like what you're talking about, mind, body, spirit, all that stuff. It all ties hand in hand. If you're going out and you're just doing something to make money, you're going to be miserable doing it.
Correct.
And
money is great until you're unhappy.
Absolutely.
And money then becomes so obsolete. I mean, although when I was younger, when I say I was making good money, let's put it into perspective of I was younger, like 20, 21 years old, right? So good money then is not good money now. But I was in a position where I was making good money, more money than I knew what to do with. And I hated it. I was so unhappy. And looking back on it, it's not like I was unhappy because of the money. The money was sweet. The money I could pay for to do everything else that made me happy. But the day-to-day objective to get that money sucked.
Yeah.
And I did not love it. I was unhappy. So guess what? It didn't matter to me. I eventually got to a point where it was like, I will sacrifice money for my own happiness. And that's not a very easy situation to call, but if you're in that spot, I mean, you got to do what's best for your happiness.
Because the good news is you can have both.
For sure.
You got to
find your route, though. You just got to find your route. It's not, I don't want to say it's hard to have both, because it's easy to some but hard to others, but you just got to deep dive. You got to understand yourself, right? And I think that a lot of people find themselves in this situation of just complacency. Like, I know that I'm unhappy, but what amount of work is it going to take to change that? Mm-hmm. And if it's more than a couple steps, it's like, I guess we'll just figure it out. That's like, to me, that's unacceptable. I'm unhappy, so what am I going to do tomorrow to change it? Why are you just being complacent in unhappiness?
Hell is meeting the person that we could have been.
Ugh.
You think about that gap, and you think about sitting in that pain just because, you realize think about if literally you met this person, it's like, wow, who is that? Like, that's who you could have been.
Correct.
If you didn't.
I mean, I know who I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, my transition is not done. We are still growing. That is an everyday ongoing situation. We're still growing, but I know who I was 2 years ago. And I don't like that person. It's not the same person as it is today. And I'm proud to be able to say that, to look back and getting to the point where you're like, man, I got to be different. Mm-hmm. How do I do it? Mm-hmm. How do I take these steps to get to where I need to be? And like I said, we're not done, but it's not even close to who I was.
Right when I had a mentor that came in and changed my life, the person that like believed in me, right?
Yeah.
And since that time, I've been on this mission to put that belief in other people because like somebody came along and picked me up when I was in a height of a victim mentality, when I was in the height of like, what am I going to do with my life, you know? And like, and this guy came along and believed in me and then kicked my ass, like because that's what real people that believe in you do. They kick you out your ass. They make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, they don't always tell you the things that you want to hear, right? They tell you things that you need to hear.
You need to hear.
Those are different.
And the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Very much so.
You know,
you gotta accept the truth.
You gotta accept
first.
it. You accept it, and until you do, you're doomed to repeat the same mistake over and over again.
Yes.
And you just sit in this pain, like why me? Why life?
Correct.
Why my luck? It's not your luck, it's your behavior and your activities
100%.
that you're doing over and over and over again.
Just saw this post on Instagram, like literally 3 days ago, and I probably not going to do it justice with the direct quote at this point because in 3 days the information that I've gotten is just too much. But it went something like, if you don't change your habits, it's not going to be a new year.
Yeah.
It's just going to be another year.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I read that and I was like, man, wish I could have told myself that 2 years ago because we would be much better off, right? It's just the truth.
It's the truth. And you can't change the past.
No.
A lot of times we were meant to go through that because you had to do something to rattle yourself and be able to see it.
Correct.
You know,
it's not as extreme, but it's like no one's ever gonna. If someone's spiraling down a bad path, like I'm a believer that you're not gonna truly change until you hit rock bottom, and that rock bottom is different for somebody, right? It doesn't have to be a tragedy in a rock bottom, but rock bottom could just be you wake up one day like, I can't do this anymore the way that I'm doing it. It has to change, right? So it doesn't need to be this big, extreme rock bottom, but you're not going to change until you hit that spot, mentally at least, right? Where you wake up and you're like, man, I've been unhappy and I know that. And it's time to actually do something about it.
So how did you find health markets and, know that this was your way that you can serve and help people?
Great question. So this goes backstory on how I started was, first and foremost, my degree is hospitality, hotel and restaurant management. Mm-hmm. So I was already in the service industry, very, very familiar with serving. That's what I grew up doing. It was my first job. It was a job that I held for, 6-7 years. Worked my way up into banquets. So I ran weddings. And that is when the fulfillment started. And I didn't understand it at the time, but looking back on it, I definitely see when the bride and groom would come up to me at the end of the night, like, Connor, you made this night special. Like, you did this. Like, granted, there was, help from staff all over, right? It wasn't just me, but I was the leader of that train. You gave us the most special night of our lives. Like, that fueled me. I hated hospitality day to day. Long hours. Closing weddings till 3 a.m, dealing with pretentious people that just expected the world, right? Hated all that, but loved the satisfaction of you made this night special, right? So then it boiled down to self-reflection, doing a deep dive, right? Why do I hate this but still go back? Well, it boiled down to I want to help.
Yeah.
I want to be able to help someone. So how do I find an industry that's going to allow me to help others the way that I love to do and not be able to not pay the bills, work crazy hours? Essentially, how can I help people and find my life and work balance on top of it? Because to me, as you work your way up in hospitality, your life balance becomes to be extremely
unhealthy.
Yeah. Just not good, right? You're working 70 hours, right? That's if you work in hospitality, man, you understand this. That's just it. You don't have another choice. You can't go to your boss and be like, I'm working 40. They're going to find, I'm going to find someone that's working 70 because there is someone that will.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate truth about hospitality is that as you work your way up, management and stuff like that, your servers are probably making more money than you. Tips.
Yep.
You work in a wealthy area, you're making less money than the people that you're managing.
Yep.
So it gets to be pretty tolling on the mental. Include the hours, include the closing weddings on Saturdays and Sundays, and you don't have a social life. It's like, man, this is not that sweet anymore.
And who cares how much money you're making because you can't even do anything with it anyways.
Right. So remember the story that I was saying about making more money than I knew what to do with, but being unhappy?
Yeah.
That's where I was. Hospitality, working weddings.
Yep.
I was making great money for 20 years old, but I hated every bit of it. Needed to find a way that I could help people still. Found health markets. And I got introduced to health markets by a guy named Mike Terry, who I think that you know.
I know Mike. Yeah. Super awesome guy.
Mike is my sales leader. He's actually my uncle as well.
No way.
Yeah, we're family.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he married into the family.
Okay.
So he's married to my aunt, my mom's sister.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, he was my sales leader before he married into the family.
Okay.
So had a business relationship before personal relationship, but he got me involved in, essentially this is how it went. It was, I'm unhappy, still need to pay the bills, looking to find a career. At that point, I was still in college. I'm in a fraternity. I'm the president of my fraternity. I got a lot of social things pulling me aside, right? Still got to make money, though.
Yep.
That doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're doing in your life. You got to make money. So needed to find a different avenue. And I sat down with Mike, and he gave me the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the bad and the ugly were not that bad to me. Factor in, I'm 21 at this point. I could hypothetically step away from hospitality, try this business for a year. And if it doesn't work, or I suck at it, or I hate it, or a combination of any of those things, then guess what? Then I'm back in hospitality at 22, and I've lost nothing but a year.
Yeah.
And that year in the grand scheme of things is nothing. No. So took the leap. And not that I'm a spiteful person, but there is one situation that happened to me that fueled me for years to come. And it was my director at the job that I was at in hospitality. I told her that I was going to leave and start a business. And she told me that that was the worst decision that I will ever make in my entire life.
Yes.
So I turned around
I love
and
the
I
extra
said,
motivation.
"You watch me."
I love the motivation.
Right.
Tell me I can't.
Right. Hey, tell me I can't, because I'm going to show you you're wrong. Right. So again, not that I'm a spiteful person, but that fueled me.
Yep.
It's like, who are you to tell me that I can't do it? You don't know. You just don't know. Here we are. 6 years later.
6 years.
6 years, man. And you hinted on it a little bit earlier, but 6 years, and at this point, I'm not a lead agent. I don't go and dial leads and cold call hundreds of people. I work 100% off referrals. I take care of people the right way, and they send me more people to take care of the right way.
It's 100% the best way to build a business.
Oh, and it's a blessing. I know what both sides look like.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
It's a blessing
to be in a referral situation where you have contact spheres and other entrepreneurs who are looking at you like, this guy is the expert in this field. He's my go-to guy. And I have those types of guys in my arsenal for every business that you can think of. Mm-hmm. You need a financial advisor? I got you. Realtor? I got you. PNC? Got you. Loan officer? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I got you. Right? And I try to be that person in return to those people every time.
So when you started off, were you dialing? Were you taking the leads? Or
For sure. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, it's not like you're starting off and you're hitting the network.
You don't have a choice unless you want to be a part-time agent for the rest of your life. Like, you can sell health insurance policies on the side. Sure, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not going to be what you expect it to be.
Money. Yeah, exactly.
No, right. Yeah. You're not paying the bills being a part-time health insurance agent.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You're paying the bills by taking that agent mentality and building a business from it. You can be just an agent. Unfortunately, there's a lot of just agents, which that boils down to a factor that I think is very important to speak about my own business. I'm not a transactional agent. I don't sit down with someone looking for a sale. I build relationships and I help people and put them in the right direction. It is not about the transaction to me. Absolutely not. Because guess what? If you just look to get the transaction and it's not the best spot for the client, what's going to happen? they're going to come back to you
Yep.
with bad reviews
Yep.
and bad experiences. And that's going to crumble your business.
Yep.
If you give somebody a bad experience, they're going to tell 10 people.
If you give them a good experience, they may tell one, maybe.
Until you push them to leave a review on Google. Then they're telling my whole contact sphere.
Exactly. The power of that branding. We're going to talk about that too.
Oh, that's
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
Branding is very powerful.
It's
Exposure.
so powerful. Exactly. It's
being
this.
top of mind. Yeah, 100%. It's this. It's which, by the way, it's this, and this is why I love to do what I do, because I have the freedom to do something like this. You and I are sitting on a Monday afternoon, on a podcast. To me, we're just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing to do, like day to day. My appointments when I sit down with clients take more time almost every time than they should because of this.
Yeah.
Because I just like to talk and build relationships. But that works wonders for me in the business world, because no one leaves my office thinking that they were just another number.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yep.
I mean, I would be blown away if someone were to tell me that that's how they felt after an interaction with myself, that they were just another number, because that's just not who I am. You're not just a number to me. You are part of my, I don't want to say family, but you're part of this with me, right? It's my book.
Yep.
And you're a part of it with me. You contributed to what I have going on. You're important.
It's huge, again, when you take care of your clients like that, and you're giving people that experience as being that difference. Mm-hmm. And people are so hungry for this because there's so little of it.
Yeah.
There's so little of it. Even a lot of people will tell you they're being this way or not, and you can tell it. You can tell it by their business and everything else. But it's so huge because our biggest human desire is to be seen, felt, and heard.
Mm-hmm.
In sales, most of the time, people aren't listening. They're not seeing, feeling, and hearing people.
No.
They're just selling or that object, trying to fulfill their quota or whatever it is. And will people buy from them? Yeah, they'll. But to your point, then they're going to leave the bad reviews. Right. They're going to tell 10 of their, probably more than 10, because it's going to be the.
Or will they buy from you now, but you didn't give them a good enough experience for them to renew with you?
Renew.
I don't care about the one-time sale.
Exactly.
You are a client of mine, and the objective now is for you to be a client of mine. I get people who just turned 26 and they get kicked off their parents' insurance.
Yes.
I'm 27, so I know exactly how that looks. I did it last year on my own. But guess what? That 26-year-old that I've had as a friend since 18, now as a client at 26, and 45 when they lose their job, they're going to call me. And at 65, when it's time for Medicare, they're going to call me.
Yep.
Because it's just... that's the relationship that I've built. It's not, hey, let me help you now. It's let me help you now and every time else that you need help.
This is the way I've always built business. It's like, then all of a sudden you're taking care of families. And to me, and you talk about helping people, like how it's so beautiful when you can see those families grow, when you see your 26-year-old friend that, starts off as a single guy.
Right. Who I met in my freshman year of high school. Right? And now you're having a child. You're married and having a kid. And I've seen that progression of life. Taking it a step further, like knowing that my dad has his own book, right? He has clients now who he has been helping for 25 years.
So cool, yeah.
Who now age into Medicare or whatever it may be, right? Now they're clients of mine. Now my family is taking care of them, which is just a whole nother dynamic that I really love.
That's so cool.
I mean, it's like we can tag team it, right? In a positive direction. I can't help in the spaces that you can, and vice versa. But we can help individually.
Yes. And it goes back to when you're talking and you're having conversation and you're truly listening to people.
Yeah.
Because, how do you know when somebody needs a real estate agent? Or, you could go and you could take your network with you and try to constantly be solving a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking about with my wife earlier, like I could constantly trying to solve this problem. Or if you're listening, you hear the pain point, you hear a struggle, you hear something that they're about to do, a dream, a hope, an aspiration. You can say, hey, I know somebody.
Yeah. And it could be, hey, you're not ready to get help right now.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. But at least in the back of your head that when you're ready to get that help, I will be a resource. I have that avenue for you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So one of the guys in our booth. Do you know Cody Powers?
Yep.
Cody Powers. Oh, geez,
Met him a couple
asked you-
times.
geez, I've asked you this already once. This
I
episode.
met Cody through SiriusNet.
Through SiriusNet.
Correct.
So what's so freaking cool about that is he was in boot camp and he's like he did a table for a financial planner, and so I was there's so much in stories, but like we're doing compelling conversations, and like we have a formula for it, and part of it is telling a story of how you serve somebody. And so he's talking about this table that he made for 52 Blue, and he's like, I want to help other businesses, I want to help other financial planning companies, and and help them upgrade their furniture and all this kind of stuff. And so he's like, I'm going to make these cold calls, and it's like, I'm with you, like. I'll teach you how to make cold calls. I'll teach you how to overcome that mentality, all that kind of stuff. I'll help you, but I would rather show you how to make it easier, right? And so he goes out and he starts calling people, and he calls up John Manwiller.
I love John. John's a great guy.
Phenomenal guy. John Hannah's amazing.
John and I started our businesses almost at the exact same time. He is one of the first contact spheres that I got introduced to when I started this business, and him and I, to this day, talk regularly. We're very involved in SiriusNet together.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's been a very great referral partner for me, and a great competitor. Right? Because we started at the same time period.
He's a sports guy too. So
sports guy too, grounded in religion, right? So faith, I should say, right?
Yep.
But he fuels me, and I would be willing to bet that he says the same thing in return. I mean, we started around the same time, we're around the same age, and we're growing together. Right. So how does our books stack up against each other? Right. And it's never too serious, but I know it's always in the back of my head, and it's there for him too. It's like, man, if he's succeeding, I'm succeeding too.
Absolutely. So Cody comes back to boot camp and he's reporting like what he did for the week, and he's like, I called this John Manwiller. I'm like, whoa. Like, you called John? Like, John's been on my podcast twice. I love John. Like, and that's my point is like, let's make it easier.
Yep.
If you tell me who you're calling, like if you know I'm a resource and I know a bunch of people,
100%.
Let me know who you're calling, because I can make an introduction. I could have given you a warm introduction to John, and you're not picking up the phone and cold calling.
Correct.
Right? And now you're having a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
However, what was really cool about that is they had a great interaction, and then he told me about that, and I told him some things about John, including his nickname being Ranger, and they ended up having another conversation, and John was like, hey, you should come to my event, which is where you ended up meeting him.
Correct.
It's funny, I've asked you now twice you met him.
If I'm not mistaken, we haven't met back. We meet this week on Wednesday, but if I'm not mistaken, he's now a member of my SiriusNet group with John.
Oh, that's awesome.
Came to the luncheon for the first time after a cold call interaction.
Yep.
And now he's a part of the group. And like, that's SiriusNet for you right there. I mean, I've been a part of SiriusNet for 6 years. I love it. And I've had other formal networking all the time, right?
Yeah.
BNIs, right? You hear about the other platforms as well. And don't get me wrong, there's benefit in BNI. There's always ROI in
you can make anything work.
Correct. But I love SiriusNet.
Yeah.
I love what SiriusNet brings to the table. Steve's a great guy too.
Steve's a phenomenal guy.
I just met with Steve today.
Did you?
Yes.
Awesome.
We talked about something between you two.
Phenomenal. Yeah, we've got some stuff going on. I just filmed a commercial for a couple weeks ago.
Didn't want to drop anything, right? But
So some good stuff going on with that. But to me, again, Steve and what SiriusNet is just something completely different than any other networking group I've talked about in this show quite a bit. I've been in sales my whole career. I've led other sales professionals and that have done BNI, and BNI, great. It all has its purpose. You can make anything work.
Correct.
There was so much about BNI that I didn't like, and most of my salespeople didn't want to sign up for. They didn't want to get up at 7 a.m. They didn't want to go do that every single week.
It gets to be Monday.
So rigid, and if you don't, you can't miss. And
attendance policies. Not to mention, if you're talking about a brand new business owner, who's got $1,400 to just shell out on? Like, I get it. Your ROI in a year is probably going to significantly exceed $1,400.
Yes.
But how many brand new business owners do you know that have $1,400 laying around?
Yeah. No, for sure. And then they give you like the ultimate two things. One, ultimate pressure. How many referrals? They're like tracking it and kind of rating you on that.
Thanks for being a part of us, but are you good enough?
And then, oh, by the way, we're going to have you be president at some point. You're going to have to then run the meetings and all that kind of stuff, which
biggest aspect that I love about SiriusNet.
Absolutely.
The member's responsibility is to pay your dues, show up, and network.
Yes.
It's not carry the meeting.
Yes.
Lead the meeting.
It's huge.
Go back home outside of the meeting and provide additional content, education moments, right? That's what the facilitator's for. And I love that. I started my own group with SiriusNet.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm facilitating my own group now, and I'm in 3 other. I'm in John's group. I'm in 2 of Wendy's groups. So, I mean, I can't get enough SiriusNet at this point.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah, here we are as well, right?
No, you're like about 3 groups. I started my own, that's, but and even outside of the things we listed is that it's the people and the culture.
Yes.
It's again the openness. The SiriusNet breakfast is my favorite event through the whole entire year.
Yep.
It's
Love the golf outing
water hose, and I missed the last 2 golf outings unfortunately. But I'll be in the next one. But so like the breakfast though is like, man, it's like the time is gone, like 4 hours, 5 hours, however long we were there is gone, just like that. I've talked to so many people this year, particularly. I spoke at it, and it was just for months, like 3 months after the event, I was just my calendar was booked. It was awesome.
The exposure.
But it's the mentality of the people again, and exactly what we've been talking about as far as the giving, the helping, and it's that mentality of like, I have people in my network or in my like relationships, in my like tool belt, so to speak, that I can go out and I can connect people to. And people are our greatest resources from the standpoint of people help us shift our mindsets. They can help us solve a problem that we don't know how to solve. You talked about at the beginning of like, I'm not a real estate agent, but I know somebody that is. I know a lot of them, you know, and I know, and the cool thing is like this one might not be good for this person, but I do know somebody that I think would really connect well here.
Correct. Being able to just be in that situation, right? I know a real estate agent. I know 30 real estate agents, and not every one of those 30 is going to be the best fit for you. Yeah. But now I have the opportunity I could, if I wanted to, I could give you 2 of them and say, hey, I know, like, and trust both of these guys or both of these girls. Doesn't matter. Yep. I work with both of them. I couldn't tell you which one would be a better fit, so here's both. And you talk to them to see which one makes you feel most comfortable, and then you work with that person. I've still done my job. And now I've given 2 people the opportunity. Whether they've taken advantage of that is one thing. Yeah. But I've given 2 people an opportunity to get business they didn't have before.
And speaking of that getting the business and talking about SiriusNet, how has that helped you transition from the cold calls? Because it is, it's stepping out and it's doing something different, and it might be a longer game. So what did that look like coming in? And, how did you hear about SiriusNet, I guess, specifically, or were you doing other networking groups outside of that?
Yep, BNI. I've been in BNI since I started, still am in BNI. But BNI comes with that rigidness that we talked about, right? BNI also frowns upon being in any other network, so might not have a BNI group after this. But no, I mean, BNI comes with what BNI comes with. I got introduced to SiriusNet. Let me think. If I'm not mistaken, John introduced me to SiriusNet. Okay. And for a long time, John had his group, but John and I just couldn't get this. He wanted me to be a part of the group, and I wanted to be a part of his group. But he met on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Every other. And every other Wednesday at 9 a.m., I had a team meeting with Health Markets. Mandatory. Yep. So couldn't be in John's group. Yep. One day, our team meeting got switched, and the schedule then became reoccurring on the opposite Wednesday. So I immediately called John, and I was like, Wednesdays are good now. Let's do it. So then I got a part of John's group. But during that process of him trying, like, I believe, now this is 6 years ago, so, take it with a grain of salt. I believe that trying to join John's group, seeing SiriusNet, I then got involved or in touch with Wendy. So Wendy was the first group that I was in, and I've been in Wendy's group for, I think she'll tell you, maybe 5 years at this point. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's how I got involved through John, if I'm not mistaken, but joined Wendy's group and just saw the benefits of SiriusNet outside of what BNI can provide, right? SiriusNet was just SiriusNet was a more lax way of professional relationship development. And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want that rigidness. I wanted to network the way that I wanted to network because I found success in that. Yeah. And going back to the no cold calls, right? 100% referrals. How does that relate to SiriusNet? Because at this point, if I'm talking to my contact sphere, I'm not a health insurance agent. I'm a professional networker. Mm. And that's how I grew my business. Mm-hmm. Just networking, doing things like this, building relationships, talking. Because people don't want to send referrals to someone they don't know, like, and trust. So my objective for 6 years was to get out and find people and show them that I am likable, trustworthy, and, I'm here to help.
Doing that, how did you rapidly build relationships within that SiriusNet ecosystem?
One-to-ones. Have to have one-to-ones. Cannot just go on to a meeting for an hour every other week and develop relationships. If you are just that person that is there when the meeting is scheduled and you don't do anything else, you're probably also the same person that's complaining about not getting referrals. So I ask you, what are you doing to get the referrals, right?
Yes.
Are you someone that I know, like, and trust? How likely is it that I know, like, and trust you off of a 1 hour meeting where I might have 30 seconds of your time every other week?
Yep.
It's just unlikely.
It's unlikely.
So can we get a 1-to-1 on the schedule? Can I sit with you on a Tuesday morning and have some coffee for 1 hour? By the way, it doesn't need to be a 10 over and over again 10 meeting thing, right?
Yeah.
1 hour.
Yeah.
I know who you are in 1 hour. I know that we can do business or we can't do business in 1 hour.
Yep.
So do you have an hour of your time, right? And if you don't have an hour of your time, then we're probably not going to pass business.
Absolutely. Don't join something like this if you're not committed to putting your time into it. If you think it's just, and this could be the SiriusNet, BNI, the chamber, whatever it is. I've heard so many people say, I didn't get anything out of joining the chamber. No one's going to just hand you something. And you can go to the one meeting and you can give your 60-second introduction. Most people are trying to think of what they're going to say and they're not listening to you.
Right.
It's just the fact of the matter. That's the truth.
Unfortunately.
They're not listening. And even if they did, most of the time you didn't say anything compelling. And so they heard like Charlie Brown teacher anyways.
Right.
And so like
in 1 ear, out
in one ear, not the other. There's been so many people that I've done one-on-ones with that I've heard their member minute so many times. And I sat with them and I was like, oh, that's what you do?
Eye-opening.
Like,
then it boils down to like, you need to change your member minute because
because
you're not doing yourself a good service here.
Exactly. But like sometimes, like, again, you have like a nervousness or you might miss a point or
Stage
you're trying
fright.
to do a commercial, stage
Even though
fright.
it's through Zoom.
But then we sit down and we're having a conversation like this and you get to know somebody at a just different level.
Correct. I mean, allow someone to talk about them or their business off camera or when the spotlight's not on them, right? They can probably talk for hours.
Yep.
Then you're on Zoom and 13 people are looking at you when you're talking and it's like, what do I do again? Who am I? It's like, why am I forgetting these things? I couldn't tell you what the spotlight's on and you just dropped the ball, right?
Do you have like as you do this, because you're out there and you're in the SiriusNet groups, you're in BNI, and that's obviously how you're building your business. Do you have like a goal set of how many like maybe one-on-one meetings you have, or what does that look like for you?
That's a great question. I don't have any like set in stone goals, like need to have 3 1-to-1s a week.
Yeah.
I don't have anything like that, but I will at bare minimum have 2 1-to-1s with, and it doesn't need to be, my contact sphere goes outside of SiriusNet and BNI, right? So there are other people that just are not natural networkers or not accustomed to the professional referral groups, right? So there are plenty of people that I sit down with who I have to sit down with because I don't see them on a week-to-week basis outside of those referral groups, right?
Yep.
I bare minimum having 2 a week, and that's like a slow week.
Yeah.
Most people that see me can attest to the fact that I'm networking on a regular basis. Some weeks my calendar will have 10 appointments and 30 COIs, Center of Influence meetings. And that's not too much for me.
That's
and
awesome.
It's 30 minutes or an hour a piece, and it's just boom, boom, boom. I like to stack my networking days. So my referral groups typically meet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
So a Wednesday for me, 7 a.m. BNI, 9 a.m. John's meeting.
Yep.
And then 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 1-to-1s.
That's awesome.
Just network.
Like stack up the day.
Correct.
Yep.
Because then I'm in the networking mood, man. You got to be in the networking mood.
Oh, for sure.
You are not. It gets draining to be positive, uplifting, communicating back and forth, engaged in conversation. So after the 7th hour on a Wednesday, you got to find things that are going to keep you engaged. So that's when like the later days or the later hours of a Wednesday, I'm meeting with someone that I haven't met with before because I have to be engaged.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm looking like a fool. They're
Yep.
telling me things, and it's one in one ear and out the next.
And you forget it. And
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we need to get another one on the schedule.
Yeah, it's for me, I know like like I have a goal for like to outreach to 20 people a week, and then like 10 one-on-ones, you know, and because again, things happen as you have the one-on-ones, and it's not like going out and being like, I'm going to go and sell this person, right? I'm just connecting and I'm learning who they are. We're having conversation back and forth, and as we do that, we build that relationship, the referrals become natural, and a lot of times even sometimes people do become clients because you're just kind of talking and sharing stories, and people can see that value back and forth.
No, very much so. That's a great point. And it does happen like that. You know, I spend at this point 90% of my day-to-day networking. No leads, no cold calling like we've talked about, right? And the referrals come in from the networking. I don't even do a ton of marketing. Social media here and there, mainly for exposure though. Continue to stay top of mind, right? You don't get a lot of direct sales from social media marketing unless you're in a specific business that correlates to that. I'm not in a business where people are going to see an advertisement of health insurance, right, from whoever carrier, and then they see a picture of my face and they're like, I got to call that guy. It doesn't ever happen right away like that. But guess what? That same person that maybe was thinking about health insurance saw my ad on Facebook. Then they saw the billboard that I'm on 94. Then they drive downtown Belleville and they see The Office. Right. So they've seen my name or my face or my phone number in 3 different places. And then, oh man, I got to call that guy.
That's exactly how it happens. And we were talking about beforehand, the like people that have been on the show. And it's like seeing the content. You know, and it's like people watch the content, they watch the video, or they watch some of the videos, they watch the whole episode, and they get to learn more about you. They see people as human. It knocks down those walls.
100%. I mean, like you said, Cody's episode, right?
Yeah.
Already led to direct referrals.
Yeah.
We're talking about closed business from a podcast.
Yeah.
And if that's not the expectation, then I mean, I don't know what it is, right? But it's exposure.
It's exposure.
Now, more people who did not have the opportunity to know you or see who you are or the product that you provide now have that opportunity.
It's building that credibility, but it also allows you to have a platform where you can help people. Because especially, you know, something like this, like you look at this conversation, and there's so many pieces in here where like little sound bites, you know, TikTok reels, TikTok, Facebook reels, that kind of thing, 60 seconds, where it's just that short video that can really help somebody. And now you're helping people while you're sleeping, while you're hanging out with family or friends, while you're helping other people.
100%.
You know, or people are coming into your atmosphere and starting to learn more about you, and they're like, oh, I want to reach out to this person. And
like, I wanted to before, but then, you know, this was the deciding factor or the motivating piece, right?
That's the really cool part is you post content is you never know when the knockout punch is going to come. People have been watching for a while. And then there's one thing that you post and they're like,
there it is.
There it is.
If at the end of today, someone has watched this and there is one nugget that they took away, then I've done my job.
Absolutely.
You've done your job. That's all that matters, right? And guess what? If you watch this hour and a half podcast and you did not get a single piece of benefit professionally from it, then you were entertained because you're still here an hour and a half.
You must have been entertained highly to stay here.
Right. Because you're still here an hour and a half later. So I'd be willing to bet that you took some type of nugget. And if you didn't, well, then you watched a movie.
Yeah.
And congratulations. I'm glad that you liked our voice enough.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, that is the truth there. I mean, if there is one person that takes one piece of anything from this, then the job is done.
Yeah. 5,000%. Like I don't always get to see those, and so it's really awesome. And if you're listening to this, I always love this when people come up to me on the street or they shoot me a message, and that happens. It's been happening especially a lot lately. Where somebody's like, hey, that person or that thing you said, or a lot of times it's like that person's story was so inspiring.
100%. I'm also experiencing that a lot more, just being more relevant on social media right now. I get people reaching out to me who's like, man, we haven't talked in years, but I see what you're posting and I see you're doing well, and it makes me happy. And that in return makes me happy. You know what I mean? So just tons of people from all circles of life who get to see my content, and it does something.
When you talk about your growth, right? And how do people see that other than when they see your literal growth?
Yeah.
And I love what we were talking about right before we came in. I'm like, oh yes, we're going to talk about branding, because you are your brand.
Yeah.
Not just you, but everybody
Correct.
is their brand, whether they realize it or not. You're building a brand, whether you have a business or you're just, just a civilian, regular
Right.
person, right? And I talked about that, like social media. And as I was a sales director and I'd go to hire people, I would search through their social media and look at their stuff and see the way that they commented and posted and all that kind of stuff, because I can see their pattern. I can get a really good idea of who they are. And you had mentioned to me about dating.
Oh yeah.
And tell me that story.
Yeah. So I mean, the story basically was that you can really dive into someone's social media and get to know who they are, or at least the person that they're portraying to be, right? Because you've seen plenty of situations where your social media does not line up with what you're actually doing or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, there was a situation where I had this girl that I was dating, right? And I did not know her very well, and I assumed that she did not know me very well either. However, she did a very deep dive on my social media, Facebook specifically. And if you don't know me on Facebook, I mean, I'm posting a lot of motivational stuff, a lot of uplifting, just talking about my personal story, right, and how I've changed and grown. But I am not hesitant to share that on social media anymore, right? So she saw all that and was like, I already know who you are. I was like, okay, tell me who I am. Like, you're a go-getter, you're someone who likes to help, you try to motivate. I'm like, okay, well, that is true. I am that way. I don't like that you got that information just from searching my Facebook. I would have rather talk to you face to face to get that information passed. But yeah, I mean, you can really dive into someone's life on social media and see who they are.
Yeah. Again, yeah. There's a portrayal a lot of times, but you can't really hide. You can, but it's hard unless you're really intentionally deceptive.
Which is
to hide who you really are. Because
Yeah.
most people are just going out and being, and they're talking the way they talk.
Correct.
And you can tell by the way that somebody told me this was really cool. It was just recently talking about intuitive people and how intuitive people have a really hard time explaining what it is that how they can predict the future kind of thing. And really what they're doing, their minds are really quickly, when they're talking to somebody, kind of seeing the way they talk, the words they're using, and the patterns in which they think. And then they're predicting the way that what's going to unfold for them really quickly, just by understanding the patterns in which they speak in the way that they think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. For me, like interviewing salespeople, for example, for years, I would like interview these people, and then I was teaching my leaders on how to interview people. And I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm taking myself out of the interview process until the third interview. The first couple are your guys's, right? You're gonna and then if they're really good, you're gonna pass them to me. And I'd be staggered by the people that they'd pass to me. I'd like, did you not see this and this and this? And like, what about this?
They weren't accustomed to looking for those
They
things.
didn't know what to look for.
Right.
In honestly, even until he said that, I couldn't have put my finger on why it was. I knew like there was something that I could do really quickly that they weren't, but I could see that the way that people talked, like, if you're blaming circumstances on other people over and over and over again, it's never your fault. That's the way you are.
Correct. That's a problem.
It's a problem. It's a problem. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's a pattern, and I can
all
see
these horrible things keep happening to me. None of them are my fault, though.
None of them are my fault.
I've done everything correct. Sure you have.
and me and you, like we've hit that wall
Yeah.
where it's like we realize, well, like I've had the same thing, that epiphany, and it's like it's not just one day, but it seems like one day it's like the Tetris wall falls, and it's like, oh my God, well, I can see so much clearer now.
You're like, now I have a path.
I was the problem.
Yeah.
It was me the whole time.
It's funny that you say that, because I unfortunately enough, like I feel like as generations progress, there becomes more entitlement and more I deserve, instead of I'm going to work for, right? So there's a lot of people who complain when it doesn't go their way, but they're too entitled to step back and say, it didn't go my way because of X, Y, and Z on my end. They're very quick to be like, you didn't do this for me.
Yep.
Or that didn't happen for me. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Never, I didn't do that. I dropped the ball. I could have been better. You got to take accountability for yourself.
Well, because who cares if it's somebody else's fault? It could legit be somebody else's fault.
Right.
For years, I blamed my dad in his abusive behavior and the way that I grew up in, my early years
Right.
for my results, like what I was getting in life. I grew up super poor. I had this abusive dad. Nobody expected me to make it. And this is what I'm getting. Like,
Right.
just my luck, right? It was my behaviors and the way that I was thinking about the world. And it was because I wasn't changing my behaviors and I thought it was everybody else's fault that I wasn't being introspective and realizing that if I adjusted the way that I think, I'm going to adjust my results. One day it hit me because my dad had committed suicide. And this is several years later. I'm blaming this guy that's dead. And I was like, he can't feel this anger.
No.
He can't feel this pain.
You're the only
He can't
one.
take away my failure. Right. It's not his fault.
At that point, you were fueling your own.
I was fueling my own.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, even if he could feel this, even if he did cause all this, even if it is all his fault,
It's not going to change.
it doesn't change my result.
Nope.
And the only one that can change it is me.
Correct.
He can't change it,
Yes.
even if he said he's sorry.
No. It takes a conscious understanding on your part. And then the next day you wake up and you take the steps necessary, right? Whether it's a life change, a mentality change, it doesn't matter. But you wake up one day and you're like, actually, it could be me.
It could be me.
I could be the one that's hindering my own success. I had that wake up call too. And I had that wake up call for the opposite reason, right? You maybe felt like you were given the shit end of the stick, right? Where I was not. I was very fortunate growing up. I had a very easy cakewalk lifestyle, right? So it got to the point where it was like, why am I not getting to the successful aspect that I know that I can be, that my parents know that I can be, that my support system knows that I can be? And I had to wake up one day and be like, it is my fault. I'm doing the wrong things. I need to wake up and understand X, Y, and Z got to go. A, B, and C got to stay, right? You can be as cliche as you want, but it's just the truth.
It's just the truth. And no one's going to change it but you.
100%. And guess what? When I woke up and realized that maybe I am hindering my own success, it was a different mindset from day one. And it was no stopping me either. There was no looking back, because once you get a little taste of it, never want anything else.
How do you go back?
Right.
Once you're aware, you're going to now
Correct.
be pretty ignorant to go back into that.
Unless you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And you're okay with going backwards, which I don't, and I'm not. So, there is no looking back. It's continuing to go forward. And I've never been someone who is like, money is everything, and I don't care about money. But I also completely understand that I need money to do everything that I love to do in this life.
Absolutely.
So find a way.
Find a way. Yep.
Money is not the end all be all, but everything in life costs money, so you got to have it.
Yep.
There's no getting around that.
And if you go out and you help enough people, the money will come.
Every time. It's the inevitable. And I did not understand that. And I do understand that now. Thankfully enough.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can get others to understand that too, man. You treat people the right way, success will find you. I said it earlier in the episode. It's the truth, man.
Yeah.
You treat people the right way and success will find you.
So what does the future look like? I see some really exciting things. You talked about the SiriusNet group and health markets. What is it growing into?
Well, for the next 8 months, the objective is to heavily build the Michigan book. In October, I'm moving to Tampa Bay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, let me clarify that for anyone who will keep up with the story 8 months down the road. I'm moving in 8 months. I'm either moving to Tampa Bay or to Dallas. It's like 90-10 Tampa Bay at this point. There's still a little bit of pull to Dallas, but Tampa Bay is probably it. So for the next 8 months, it is hit the ground hard and continue to service and build the existing Michigan book. This year, 2024, I grew at 100%. I doubled my book size.
Wow.
So for the next 8 months, the objective ideally is to double again. Will I be able to accomplish doubling outside of open enrollment for an 8-month period where I'm probably going to be focused on moving? Maybe not. It's an ambitious goal, but it's my goal. After that, storefront in the new location. That's the next big step. A couple minor steps in between there. Getting another assistant hired on to handle the back end stuff. I don't like the customer service aspect. Here's your customer portal and your member link and all that stuff. Necessary part of the job. Don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pay someone to do it for me.
Yep.
But yeah, a couple, small steps, assistant, building a book, doing stuff like this, right? Getting the word out. That's a big objective of mine, 2025. Not enough people know who I am.
Yep.
And I'm not okay with that. So find a way to get as many people as I possibly can to know who I am, what I do, what I can offer. And let me be clear on that. That's the focus outside of the business too. Because again, I don't need to help with the business. I will always find a way to help with the business, but that's not the objective. It's to help in any way that I can. If it relates to the business, then so be it.
Yeah.
That's another benefit to me, I guess. But it doesn't need to be that way. And that's not what I'm seeking. I facilitate a SearsNet group not to funnel business to health markets, but to be a resource to everyone else in that group. Does the business get funneled to health markets? Yes, that's the inevitable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take, that opportunity for granted nor turn down the business. But that's not the objective. It's to help everyone else involved.
It's awesome. Again, and it's like one of those things that you do the things that are fun, that serve you.
I have a lot of fun.
That serve others. It's a constant refueling, and I think you said the word earlier, fulfillment.
Yeah.
Outside of that fulfillment and looking at like that, like seriously, we talk about like a lot of ways like differentiating ourselves and like we differentiate ourselves in our stories and stuff like that. Have you noticed like from becoming a facilitator? I guess what is your motivation to be a facilitator? Was it more like helping, or what is that?
Okay. My true motivation to be a facilitator was I looked at myself as a professional networker. For 6 years, I built a business on almost, I would say, solely networking, really. I mean, you made a couple sales to begin with on cold calling and leads. But I would say 95% of the business was built on networking. So I considered myself a professional networker, which meant I had a lot of good professional contacts. In the cell phone, in the email, whatever it may be. So the objective was to create a group of the best of the best.
Ooh.
I know a lot of people in a lot of industries, but I wanted the best on my side.
The A-team.
Correct, the A-team.
Yeah.
So that's the objective to be a facilitator, is to construct the A-team. So I have referral partners everywhere, but I also have my group of the heaviest hitters that I know will get the job done the right way every single time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I know that you got a lot of people in your network, but I also am willing to bet that you got a lot of people that you're like, I would send you a referral.
Oh, 5%. Yep.
But there are other people that I know deserve that referral more.
Yep.
So
I'm
giving back to the people that I felt deserved.
That's a really cool insight.
Yeah.
Like a really cool perspective on building your team.
It's got to be the power. Like every group that you're in, SearsNet, BNI, masterminds, whatever else.
Yeah.
Everyone has the common objective, right, of power teams. Insurance, like P&C health insurance, great referral partners. Loan officer, realtor, great referral partners, right? Because you're in direct contact with that same client during the same process. I didn't want a power team. I wanted a power group.
That's awesome.
And that's the objective, man. Power group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really cool perspective, like I said. And it's one of those things I looked at it again from that. And one of the things I'm working with on Steve is like, because we're working with real estate agents, for example.
Yeah.
How do you stand out on a platform and differentiate yourself?
Right.
And especially if you really do get fulfillment and joy out of networking and connecting people and like it's almost like you're getting paid even though you're not. It's like a monetary thing of like connecting and helping those relationships build.
Oh,
and when you get really into that, or if there's something that you're really into, like being a facilitator for SiriusNet gives you that opportunity, but it also gives you an opportunity to kind of be on that platform.
Yes.
To stand
100%.
out and to be a difference maker.
I mean, I think I opened the group 2 months ago, maybe.
Okay.
And in 2 months, I've had like 4 people reach out to me who I have not known before, who simply saw that I was a facilitator on SiriusNet website and was like, hey, I need your help in X, Y, and Z. Whether it was looking to join a group, needing health insurance, whatever it may be, they just found my name on SiriusNet website.
That's awesome.
And I'm a facilitator, so I'm front and center.
Yep.
So they saw my name.
Yeah.
And they reached out. Didn't know him before. Don't have any mutual contacts. But, that's the world of connections right there.
It's all those things, and it's like, how do you, from 7 years ago, not knowing anybody, I'm sure, to where you're at now in that retrospective, like you talk about building a book or the legacy of just even those relationships across 7 years.
Oh, it's unbelievable to look back at what my contact sphere was 6-7 years ago. Minuscule. Now I need a second phone.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Which is like, and I don't say that to brag in any way.
Yeah.
I'm forever humble, grateful, blessed to be in the situation that I'm in. Like, through and through.
Yeah.
Can't express that enough. But it's sweet.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, absolutely. You worked hard to put yourself in this position.
Yeah. Very much so. And honestly, I'm thankful to be in the position that I'm in because I didn't give it my all for a long time. And a lot of people that don't give it their all quit or fail. And I didn't quit or fail, but I did not give it my all for a long time. I was a part-time agent. I was still in school. I was in the fraternity. I was doing the things that I wanted to do at that time in my life. So I just made it work for a couple years. It sucked. It was like a tough couple years for sure. Having a lot of fun, not having a lot of success, which unfortunately tends to happen.
Yep.
But, it's not the case anymore. I'm not a part-time agent. I'm not an agent at all at this point. I've transitioned from a health agent, a health advisor, to a business owner in the health space.
That's awesome.
Night and day difference.
Night and day. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Because again, it comes with, and I can see you really getting into this, like the mentorship, the leadership.
Very much so. I love to be a leader. That is something that God has gifted me with from birth. I believe that I am a natural born leader. It's like, you can't say that and not sound a little arrogant, right? But I say that from the most humble space possible. I'm a natural born leader. I love to lead in the correct direction. And outside of the fueling factor of Power Team, right, for SiriusNet, another minor goal that I had, not with this group, right, because you can't have both that I'm going to explain here, but if I were to open a second group for SiriusNet, the objective for that second group would be to get all brand new business owners and show them how to network.
Ooh, that's fun. That's awesome.
Right. So now I have a group of people relying on me to give them the tools and tactics to be a successful entrepreneur, which that gives me chills just thinking about it. I love that. I cannot wait to do that next.
You talk about helping people.
Yeah.
There's a big need there for sure.
Right. 15 new business owners who are 20 to 25, right? In the same age group that I was, starting mine too. Let me tell you my life experiences. Let me tell you what to avoid and what to highlight, right? And I wasn't perfect, and I'm still not perfect. I never will be.
Yep.
But
a constant journey.
Yeah, constant journey. But let me start that journey with you early, so you don't have to wait until you're 26 to start that journey. Because if you have the tools and the right mentorship at 20, why not? Why wait?
Why wait? Don't wait.
No, dude, don't wait. I waited. Don't wait.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, don't wait.
Yep.
Your future self will thank you. I'm telling you.
Dude, Connor, this has been a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks, man, for coming on down.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, I could talk for years.
Yeah, I know.
It
I
is
was going
my
to say we could
favorite
rock
thing
it
to
out.
do.
I think
know.
Cameron wants to go home at some point.
Yeah, probably so. I'm surprised we didn't talk about Lions football more. We did a good job at staying on task.
We did. We stayed on task the whole time. So
It's just so easy to put the word grit in every sentence.
well, and again, there's so many things that we've talked about that really ties into that. I don't even talk. I could talk about the Lions all day.
Sure.
Obviously, a huge sports fan, huge Lions fan, and
But
we
the
deserve
way it
this.
relates to real life,
It's real life.
yeah.
And especially you can correlate to entrepreneurship because again, there's so much of that. When Dan Campbell came in, it's easy to say we're going to bite kneecaps, but they sucked.
Execute it.
How do you change a culture that's always sucked? How do you change a mindset that's always sucked? I've seen for years Lions coaches that have come in and they're confident and they,
Matt Patricia.
cocky. But then like there's something that hits them a couple games in, and then you hear their coach speak at the end. They're like, "We're gonna try." And whenever I hear somebody say "try," I'm like, "It's over." Especially a
Do
Lions
or do
coach.
not. There is no try.
And then all of a sudden you have Rod
Yoda.
Marinelli talking about he's in a tunnel somewhere, and it's like the coaches always went crazy. Like they just. How do you come in and you change a culture? And it's got to start with that mindset. But it's like changing every person.
100%. No, completely agree. Couldn't have said it better.
Yep. Man, thanks again.
Yeah. No, this has honestly been a ton of fun. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.